What's up, guys? Welcome into another edition of Bogey Free. We're coming at you with some OHL Classic action this week. Evan couldn't join us tonight, but I am joined by Jimmy. I almost said Dimmy because that's how that's how we're rolling tonight.
Whatever. We
DF
just need a few more beers.
at DFS Jimmy on Twitter. Jimmy, what's going on, man? How we doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Actually, you'll know if anybody watched the previous episode, you'll notice my background is a little different. I'm in my buddy's garage tonight, so we're either going to get some, on location inspired hot takes, or or we're going to go down in flames, one of the two. But we're here either way, so I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Absolutely, man. We had a pretty decent finish on Sunday this past week out in Vegas with Cantlay getting his win this week. Were you watching it all or just tuned into the NFL?
Yeah, I sort of have like 98% of my bankroll in play on the NFL at the moment comparative to golf, and it's sort of hard to like watch golf, even though I did all right. I cashed in a couple of GPPs, but nothing crazy. So I self-admittedly did not watch it. I didn't even watch the playoff, which is, sort of sacrilegious, but I was busy sweating NFL, and Doug Baldwin came through for me at the end. So that's where I was last week, but I did follow a lot of the golf, and, Cantlay was, he's a fan favorite for a reason, and he was destined to win one of them. I had plenty of them, and he's what allowed me to cash. So no complaints at all, but I am looking forward to, to kind of getting through these next two events, and hopefully watch a little more this week. But take a nice little break from golf, focus on the NFL, and get back to like golf and the Tournament of Champions. I'm really kind of fired up to get like past these next two events and into the big money events.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be nice for the season to swing back around, and we had some good finishes last week from some guys that we're going to be talking about here shortly. Before we head into the slate. What are some things that you're targeting this week down in Mexico?
As far as stats, you mean?
Yeah. What are we thinking?
Yes. So on Fantasy National, I run 10% birdies, 15% DK points, 10% birdie or better gained, 15% ball striking, fairways gained, greens in regulation, par 400 to 450, all at 10%, scrambling at 15, and good drives at 5. I for the most part, the top four categories stay the same for me in the same weight just about every week. And then I change the bottom ones kind of on the course. But this week I'm rolling with that model. And then I take over 24 weeks. And then I also take that same model and I dial it into some what I think are comp courses and from what I've read in the industry and stuff. And I plug those two in to my own little spreadsheet. And, I kind of aggregate my results between two models, and that's kind of what I'm doing this week.
Yeah,
also
absolutely.
Factoring in course history pretty heavily.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this and you haven't checked it out yet, on bogeyfreedfs.com, I put together some models every week. Some Fantasy National stuff. I dabble very lightly in some machine learning stuff when the stats are there for previous years. This particular tournament doesn't have shot tracker, so there's not a ton, real like dialed in proximity stuff or anything like that. It's a little bit more, I guess, open to interpretation this week. But it does seem like this is sort of a lesson driver accuracy second shot sort of deal. Do you agree with that, or?
Oh, absolutely. It's a tight course. Norman designed it that way. The other thing about it is, it is on the coast. It can be pretty windy. And I mean, even when it's not windy, it's breezy. And with the tight fairways, and it's not necessarily the tight fairways so much as it is, once you get past the fairways, you're in some really, really rough conditions, jungle, mangroves, some just bad situations all around. And the greens are pretty small. Yeah, exactly. There's not, so, it's not necessarily that, it's just, you can't miss more than 5 yards outside of the fairway, so if you can keep it in that 5 yards, you can miss all the fairways you want. But it's crucial to be in the fairway here. And there's a lot of funny looks off the tee as I scroll through the course. Obviously never played it, but as I scroll through the course, it looks like there's some interesting looks off of the tee that kind of encourage guys to club down and just really take the accuracy. And I think that's exemplified in the people that have won here and that have placed well here. I mean, it's just sort of a murderer's row of, short accuracy guys. I think if Jim Furyk would have played this event a bunch of times, he'd probably be right up there as well. It's just that type of course. So I'm sure the Bombers can get in play. What I look for in an event like this is experience more than youth.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely interesting. Sort of bouncing back and forth between seeing some of these courses that are just like straight Bombers paradises, and then you get a course like this that it really put a premium on a little bit more accuracy. And apparently there's like a goddamn cave on the 7th fairway or something ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
what
it's
the
like
hell's
a
up with that?
sinkhole. I think it's like a sinkhole. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, it's a wild course. It's a straight up Mexico course. It's pretty intense, I guess. If the wind starts blowing as it did in 2015, it gets really nasty around here. So, that's why Graham McDowell kind of surged to the front, and that's why he'll be, I think he'll be in ridiculously popular chalk play this week for that reason. But it definitely gets breezy, and the guys that have a low ball flight that just tend to keep it between the numbers and hit good shots into these greens are gonna fare better than guys trying to overpower the course this week.
Absolutely. So as we segue into that, we have 3 guys up at the top above 10K this week. We have Ricky Fowler, we have Pat Perez, and we have Captain America. So where are we going up here? What are we doing?
All right. Well, before we get into it, I have to ask you, I mean, do you think Ricky showed up to play or to party?
The same thing. I mean, are those different things? Ricky can get down and still make some putts.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, if you're paying that much money for him, you really need him to score well. If he doesn't win, he needs to come really damn close. And it's just like, so the 7,000 range is really wide open this week, which allows you to get Ricky in. I do think you need to have some exposure to him. Certainly not in cash for me, but I guess there's a couple ways to look at it. Ricky was one of the most accurate drivers of the golf ball last year when he cut his driver down. That makes a huge difference. It makes me want to play him actually on this course. He can hit it longer than others, and he can keep it in the fairway. I mean, he's never played this event before either. So that's the other thing that kind of gives me pause, because the guys are forced to pick up an event that they haven't played the last 4 years. So he misses all this time in Asia that where he's played well. And now he just adds this event down in like Party Central, Playa del Carmen. I mean,
this was 100%
got a hot new thing, girl, take with him. It's like, oh, I'll just, like, I think if he starts hot, you're going to be fine. I think if he starts cold, he could mail it in easy. Like, I think that is just very much in play, and you need to be prepared for that if you're going to have heavy exposure to him.
This was 100% like he pulled up the schedule on PGAtour.com and he's like, babe, pick an event in the fall. We'll fly somewhere. We'll make a vacation out of it. Yeah. And she's like, I'm not going to fucking like China or some shit. I want to go to Playa del Carmen. So I think there's definitely something to be said about that. But either way, I think he's fine. I mean, objectively, like you said, he's not wild off the tee. Like, he had the propensity to be at certain points when he was younger. And I just think that it's going to be, I don't know, man. I think in a field like this, it's pretty reasonable to project him for like a top 5. And that's what you need at this price, right?
He's a known wind player. He's won in Scotland where it's windy. He's played well in the wind. His driver cutting it down for better accuracy, makes me want to play him. And then I don't think we saw anybody more clutch last year getting up and down. Really, the guy, he drained like 20-foot par putts on the reg. Just that's what he did. So statistically, he was amazing last year. So, if you're going to play him, I think you should commit to it and just, and go heavy, because if he shows up, he's going to smoke this field. And this course, I think low key, this course sets up really, really well for Ricky's game and for him to just absolutely dismantle this place. So again, I think it's a really polarizing choice. You're going to have to make a decision and go for it. As for the other guys at the top, Patty P's one here. If you're playing a bunch of lineups, go for it. You need to have some exposure. If you're only playing a couple, I think you probably can get away with not playing him. If you're not sold on him. Patty Reed's the most interesting one to me. He's never played this event before, but he is number 1 in scrambling in my model, and he is number 1 in par 4, 400 to 450 scoring. He shows up in one of my combined models really high. So, I think he's the most interesting from an ownership standpoint because people aren't going to be on him. And again, sort of like Ricky, when he's on and he's hitting fairways, Patrick Reed this is the kind of course and the kind of field that he'll just absolutely crush. Good wind player, gets up and down, scrambles well, and when his putter heats up, it's as good as anybody. So I think he's the most interesting in the 10-5 range to me. If I'm going to commit to somebody, I'll probably go really contrarian and try and grab some shares of Patrick Reed. But overall, I think I'm going to fade the top 5 guys on the board.
Yeah, as of right now, Perez has 18 tags on Fanshare. Ricky has 13, and Reed literally has 1. So, I mean, I think that tells you all you need to know. If you're throwing some lineups into tournaments, I think that Reed makes the most sense because, I mean, in this field, obviously he has the talent to win, and it seems like nobody's on him as of right now. Yeah. As we sort of go down a little bit further, though, we do have this is throwing me off right now. Hold up. So Fanshare has Webb Simpson at 10K for some reason, but I'm not seeing that.
He's not in the field. He withdrew.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, hold up.
Yeah, he's out. Webb Simpson, Scott Piercy, and somebody else. They're out. Ollie Schneiderjans withdrew this afternoon too, which is a bummer because I was on him earlier.
Yeah, I was just looking and I was like, I have Chesson Hadley up next here on Fantasy National, and then I flipped over to Fanshare and he was there. So never mind. Yeah, don't play Webb Simpson this week. That I can be sure of.
Yeah, we're better off without him anyway. I can't stand that guy. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I hate playing him.
I don't give a lot of good takes, but don't play Webb Simpson this week. Total fade for me. So I know that's a little hot, but then, I mean, the Wonder Boy, Chesson Hadley, like, what are we doing with him? He's going to be like the chalk of all chalk this week.
Yeah, you can fade that guy 100% and sleep really well. Listen, Chesson Hadley's a good dude. I heard him on the Tour Junkies pod. I get it. He's been really hot. I get it. The wind changes this course. I mean, listen, he's been playing a lot lately. You know, I'm off. It's an 80-20 rule for me. Guys make 80% of the money and 20% of the time. Guess what? Chesson Hadley's been hot for more than 20% of this season, it seems like. So I'm just going to take the percentages and things are going to regress a little bit because I don't think Chesson Hadley is long-term that good of a golfer, you know, where he's been playing right now. Now, that said, could it bite me? Sure. But at 20%, I'll just take the other side because I wasn't on him last week and I'm not going to go chase him this week. I think it's just, if you've been on him, fine, stay on him. You know, there's not like a great reason to fade him, but if you've not been on him, I think this is the wrong time to like chase and jump on him.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for just the model that I pulled and the sample that I have. He's not really grading out that well in regards to fairways, especially hitting fairways. So that's a concern. I mean, he has been hitting greens recently, but I'm good with that too. I think his ownership is going to be out of control, and I don't see the absolute smash.
Don't play mediocre guys that are highly owned. It's just a good rule to have.
And expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just don't. So that's my. So we can like move on. We can be done with Chesson Hadley as far as I'm concerned.
So he's Kareem Hunt then, right? This week he's Kareem Hunt.
He very well could be Kareem Hunt this week.
All right. As we go down through the rest of the 9K guys, who's sticking out to you here?
Gary Woodland, and it's not even close. So sneaky way to look at this tournament. Just play the guys that played well last week and sleep well. Like, just the courses are similar. They're not going to let. I think that the breeze is going to come in this weekend and kind of level out this field. I don't think it's going to be like a crazy nutty scory fest like it can be here. I do think the breezes will kind of tamper down the scoring just like it did last weekend. There'll be 1 round or 1.5 rounds that guys will need to contend with some wind, and it could really take a bite out of this field. So Gary Woodland played well last week, just didn't close it out. Plays well at comp courses, plays well on tight fairways where he needs to club down, really use that power with his 2-iron and things like that to kind of beat the field instead of his driver. He's been an improved golfer since he's had his twins. He's my pick to win, and I don't pick Gary Woodland to win because, well, let's face it, Gary Woodland doesn't win much. But I do think that this is an event that Gary Woodland goes well at. So there's a couple. I like Ches Reavie in this range too as a really contrarian play because he's way too expensive, but he does rate out number 1 in one of my models. So I can't can't ignore that. And he's also been really consistent lately. Zach Johnson's fine, but he just doesn't score enough points for me. So plus I need to see him dial in that PXG driver sort of for an event before I jump on Zach Johnson. That's been his weak point ever since he was switched over to PXG. He just can't quite get the driver right. So
yeah. That's fair. Yeah. I mean, you're speaking my language when you bring up my boy Gary. So I'm fine with that. We, me and Wedge have a long-standing, I guess, rivalry about Gary Woodland. So, yeah, I'm fully on Gary. I think Ches looks like he's going to see some ownership based on Fanshare right now. Him and He has the same amount of tags as Hadley.
You're right.
Which is weird. Like, I don't see that. I don't think that's going to come to fruition, but
I don't either. I think all those numbers, I think those numbers are probably a bit inflated from touts. I don't think the public's going to do that. Right. I think you probably see like 3 to 4% less ownership than maybe they're predicting. I'm seeing like 17 on Fantasy National, and maybe it comes in at like 15, something like that. Maybe a little less.
Yeah, for sure. And there are more like straight start tags for Hadley than Reavie too. So that does factor into ownership.
I'd play Reavie over Hadley all day though.
Yeah, I absolutely would also. No question about it. Yeah. Outside of that, do you have any Chappell love?
It's hard to not, but
you're finding a way, even though it's hard not to.
Well, mainly because I'm all over the guy right below him in Charles Howell. And that's sort of the reason. For what it's worth, Chappell's rating out really well in my models, and a lot of that has to do with DK points scored. But he does rate out pretty well in scrambling, oddly enough, on the courses I'm looking at, and in the last 24 rounds. Take that for what it's worth. I'll probably grab like one share of him this week to just not cry if he wins, but I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, that's fair. So why don't you tell us why you love Chucky 3-6 this week?
Because you play Chucky in the fall, and it starts this week and it continues for the next several, and then you don't play Chucky anymore, and you just ever. It's like DFS rule. It's just a golf betting rule, and you just sort of follow it. He's going to be popular. He likes this course. He's, again, like a Gary Woodland. He's great at clubbing down. His major weakness is his driver off the tee. Everything else, Chucky just kind of does really, really well and above average. And he's going to make you a cut. And if he's going to win an event, it's going to be in the fall swing. And it could easily be this event, the next one, several. But this is when you play Chucky. So get on the train right now and just ride that thing for the next several weeks and enjoy life.
And then dive off of it.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure you get off of it before it launches over a trestle into a river 100 feet below.
If they're in Hawaii, you need to be off the train by then. That's
that's where I'm at with Chucky though. But there's, I don't know, not a whole. I'm pretty focused on him, but there's a lot of good plays in the mid-8 range. Where are you going?
Yeah, down here. I mean, I don't know. This is another one of those like. The math is not matching up with my brain necessarily, but for whatever reason, Ryan Moore seems to be popping in quite a few of the things that I'm building. And I'm not like the biggest Moore fan, to be totally honest, but I mean, other than the Shriners, he's, he played fine. It was really just, he lost his ball striking a little bit. His approach game kind of went a little sideways, but other than that, he played pretty well, putted kind of neutral, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it makes some sense. He can definitely score. He's in my model. He's 17th in DK points for the field. So that works for me. I'm pretty happy with that. Other than that, man, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I like a lot of sort of random, like deeper, like cheaper plays. But I don't know. Like you're going to hate me. I mean, maybe a little bit of Bryson.
I don't hate that. I mean, listen, I don't like the guy. I'm not like a big fan of his. I played him last week, and I thought he'd do well last week. And I touted him on the Mayo show a little bit. I'm not a huge Bryson fan, but I can see it because he's got his. There's an old interview with him, and it kills me every time I watch it because I got my fairway finder swing out. He has a swing that he named the fairway finder. So how do you not like him on an accuracy course? The kid's super smart. He must have figured it out.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at least he's making cuts now. Like there was that stretch where like it was nothing but his dumb commercial, and it was just like him missing a cut, and then they'd go to his commercial. Yeah, it was just the worst. So at least we're past like unnecessary commercial Bryson, and hopefully we're like moving into like reasonable play Bryson. I mean, Russell Knox has completely forgot how to golf, right? Like he doesn't know how anymore.
Listen, I play the King of the Hill winner take all $1 contest every week, and he is going to be in at least one of those lineups. I get it, and the guy is totally lost it. Maybe, maybe not. He's made a lot of changes off the course. He's made a lot of changes in general in his approach to golf. Those things do pan out. We saw a flash recently, several weeks ago, of vintage Russell, but this is a course that he obviously is comfortable with. He obviously knows how to play well. And listen, this is golf. Anybody that golfs knows that you can play really, really great one week and play like dog shit for the rest of the year. That's just what happens when you play golf. So this could be Russell Knox's really, really good week. And because I'm kind of a fan, I will have him in one of those King of the Hill lineups.
And this is also like the harbor town of Mexico, right? So, I mean, we got to play it, right?
Yeah, I find it hard to like, if you're playing, like 10 lineups, not to stick him in one of them. I mean, my gosh, the guy is dominated here. Let me see. In his last 5 events here, he has gained 38.14 strokes on the field. I'd say that's
okay. Good. It's not bad. Not bad.
So yeah, it's he likes the course, but I will have some exposure. I really like Jason Kokrak this week as well. Kokrak. Guys perform really well. Playing cash, he's a great cash play this week.
For sure. Any Scott Brown love while we're in this range?
I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for Scott Brown, man. This is an event he can win if he decides to show up. I thought that about last week's, and he kind of barely made the cut and then just sort of floundered. And I think he finished DFL, if I'm not mistaken. But I'll
putted well, though.
Share 2 of him.
Casey, you want to latch on? First-round leader. Oh, every week. That's a mortal lock. If Scott Brown is in the field and you do first-round leader and you don't have him, you're donkey. Like straight donkey. That's so bad.
Yeah. So I'll definitely have some. What about you? What you got any love? You going back to the Wee Kim or Austin Cook train this week? What about Lahiri?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best case there for me would be Lahiri, but I'm not in love with him either. He's another one of those guys where I just never seem to completely get right. I think I played him at like the API. He like came over after some event in India and just completely fucking ejected. But that's kind of how the beginning of my season went. But yeah, I mean, Cook has been playing well, right? A couple of top 25s, I think, over the past few weeks.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about Cook this week, but yeah, he has been playing well. I'm just not sure the course suits him, and he's younger. I'm just not sure he like tones it down long enough to keep it in play this week. But I do long term. I think Cook is great, and he's going to do great things.
Not sure. It is a shame that Ollie's not in.
Yeah, I'm bummed about Ollie, dude. I really liked Ollie this week. It probably saved me a boatload of money.
Have to, right? Yeah, that's true. That's true also. And I'm not in on Kim. I know he's been playing well, but he gained 8 strokes. He gained 8 strokes putting last week. Like, get the hell out of here. That's not something I'm willing to bet on. Especially, it's not like it's close or it's the same surface. Like, it's completely different greens. So no. Thank you. Absolutely not.
No.
Hard fade.
Get that guy out of here. I'll let those guys pay the rake this week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at a certain point, you can't like chase everything, right? And putting is definitely something that you cannot chase.
No. So are you? Are you going to play the super chalky McDowell?
I don't want to. I mean, if I'm playing cash, I probably will, but I don't want to. He's another guy. His putter was out of this world last week, right? Didn't he gain over like 5 or 6 strokes putting? I mean, no, I don't care. I'm not like, I don't know. Where do you fall on like course history and everything else? Are you like fully on team course history?
No, okay. I'm like 30% on team course history.
Okay.
I think in some cases it does matter. I think it's a course fit more than it's a course history thing. And I think that we often confuse the two because more often if you look at the course fit and you look at the guys that do well there, that sort of tells a better story about the top 25s than does an individual player playing well in an event over 3 to 5 years. Now there are of course exceptions and things like that, but at the end of the day, I try to find more of a course fit than I do a history. But I certainly look at it, I do weigh it, but I don't blindly play course history. No.
Yeah, and I mean, why would you play Graham McDowell at the same price when Stuart Sink is right there? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
For what it's worth, in all my models, in both of my models, in my strokes gain model, I have in every optimal lineup that I've run in my own system, combining a bunch of fan share stuff or fantasy national stuff, he comes up in every one of them.
Yeah.
For what it's
He's
worth.
a smash play. Smash play. Love it.
So
I love Stuart
Sink. Is
Sink.
T.Y. Hilton of this week's slate?
Yeah, I mean, he's the everything. Like, every week he plays, he's the GOAT. Like, he's the first, like, reasonably well-known person that ever, like, answered me on Twitter. When I went to the US Open, when it was at Bethpage years back, when I was in high school, I, like, activated a Twitter just to tweet at, like, golfers. And he answered me back and was like, yeah, man. He's like, I tee off at this for the practice round. Like, come by. Super nice dude. Like, I will always love Stuart Sink. He's really, really awesome. He's the best. So that's cool. my little love affair. But I think objectively he's a good play too. So we did skip over Luke List though when we jumped down to our 7,700 boys. So
that wasn't by mistake.
All right. Well, there you go. All right, moving on.
Probably be the one event that he wins and I'm not on him, and it'll be soul crushing, and I'll cry on Sunday.
Oh, it'll be the worst, man. If that dude ever wins when I'm not on him, I'm going to be so pissed.
Here, hot take. Is he ever going to win?
Ouch. Oh, see? The hot take alarm is going off.
Yeah, you hear that buzzer in the background? Yeah. Boom.
That's like the Jerry bark.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not on List this week, and I'll be fine if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I mean, Gary Woodland's going to win, and Stuart Sink is going to come second, so it doesn't really matter anyway.
Yeah. You should probably play Bryce Garrett instead of Sink.
No.
Or Garnett. I'm gonna play Garnett. Are you playing Garnett?
No, why?
Oh, come on. You got to play some Garnett.
Do I?
He's only played this event like 3 times, and he's gained 16.73 strokes on the field. And in his last 5 events on tour, he's picking up 3.42 strokes on the field. Course sets up well for him. Guy likes this place. I'm going to play him because I don't think a whole lot of other people are. And like I said, the 7s are wide open. The ownership's going to be kind of spread out. I think you're going to be fine with a guy like that. And I think a top 10, top 15 is well within range for him.
What about Streelman?
I was on Streelman last week and a little disappointed, which probably means he's going to crush it this week. I'm not as sold on him as everybody else is. He seems to be fairly chalky, which makes me all the more want to play other people not named Kevin Streelman.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He was my damn one and done last week, so I'm not particularly pleased with him either. Freaking, what's his name on Ryan RB Brough fucking got me on him, and I changed my mind at the last second. I should have just went Woodland, but I'm not bitter, so it's fine. Moving right along. I mean, is there anybody else in this sort of upper 7K range worth talking about? We got Griot here. I kind of like him a little bit this week. No.
Yeah, I always kind of like Griot. I'm a believer in Griot. I think if he ever kind of gets that 1 or 2 really bad swings under control in 4 rounds, he'll do incredibly well long term. That said, short term, he always seems to blow up for like 2 or 3 holes and just really take himself out of it. And I don't know. I like him. He's not going to be heavily owned. I'll probably have some of him, but I'm not crazy about him.
All right, that's fair. I just, from sort of a course fit, I think it makes a little bit of sense just hitting fairways and such. But
sure.
It's definitely hard to trust him. He's by no means like a high owned sort of cash type play for me at all. And then you have the GOAT Ryan Armour. So just load up 100% Armour and you'll be fine, right?
I was on him when he won at I think it was a 125 to 1 a couple weeks ago, and I find it really difficult to go back to him because, again, it's sort of like the 80-20 rule. Do I really believe that Ryan Armour is a good enough golfer to outperform what I believe is his median results long term? I'm not sure. he is pretty hot right now, and this is the type of event that would suit his game almost perfectly. So I'll probably have some exposure, but I'll be underweight. I think the field's projected at almost 20% ownership on him, or 17% ownership, which is, I don't know, a little high for me. I think there's some really talented guys around him that at lower ownership probably make for better plays. For example, Harris English like he's projected for like less than 2% ownership, and he's been really consistent here, like really consistent. I think I think he's probably a better play than Ryan Armour if you're just looking purely at ownership and you don't believe that Armour is going to top 15 this event. Then I think he makes an excellent pivot. If you believe in Armour, I'd say play him, because again, he's hot, and if he stays hot for another week, it could really pay off for you. But I think I'll probably be underweight. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do like, I mean, I'm just a sucker for certain guys, and they just seem to like be in this range. Like, I will always play Johnny Vegas whenever he's in the field. Like, his upside when he's on is just insane. The way that he can put together strings of birdies. So I always like having a little bit of him.
I'm on board with that.
He was top 10 here last year. So, it's not like a total dart throw.
No, it's good.
Even Seamus Power, I like most weeks. He had like a top 30 here last year. So I kind of like that a little bit too. I don't know. I mean, a lot of these guys are so similar, right? Like, it's hard to differentiate. I think this is like, there's just a few guys that I'm just going to rotate through and make like very similar lineups, sort of with the expensive guys that I like, and then just rotate a lot of these guys through, because it's just too difficult. All these guys kind of like mold together at a certain point.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think that there's very few that kind of really stand out from the pack as huge values. Like I said, the $7,000 range is really spread out. Ownership's going to reflect that. And I think if you can avoid with a couple big traps, like I think Armour could potentially be a big trap. I think Streelman could be a big trap. I think if you can avoid those big traps in tournaments, in cash, I'm not playing cash this week, so I don't really care. But if you can avoid a couple of big traps, I think in tournaments you'll have a decent shot to cash, because I think this event could go, like, it could go to anybody really. Almost anybody in the 7K range could pop up and win this event, I think, in all actuality, because the top of this field is really weak.
Yeah, for sure. What about we got three guys at the same price, just with initial first names. We got Spawn, Henry, and Poston. Any love there or no?
No on Henry, yes on Spawn. And who was the other one?
JT Poston.
I'll save JT for next week at the RSM, and just hope that that doesn't burn me. I think he plays better closer to home, probably. At 7,000, I do like John or as Pat likes to call him, Johnny question marks. I am in on that. What about a 5% owned Jason Bone with the most elite course history possible here? And since his heart attack incident or heart episode, I don't know if he's even made a cut.
Yeah. No, I'm not willing. I'm not willing to spend my hard-earned money on him this week. I don't know. Not feeling it. Yeah, but like we keep saying, like, some of these guys are so similar, right? Like,
yeah, you can make a case for any of them. Nick Taylor, great approach game, been pretty hot lately. Shows up on comp courses. Brian Stewart, showed up at a similar course down in TPC, Louisiana. I forget the actual name of it. Short course. Keeps it in play. Brian Stewart, we've seen when he's on, he can compete. This is the type of event he can win. Patton Kazire starting to heat up a little bit. Swing season coming into the RSM and hometown next week. He could show up again this week. I mean, I could give you a reason to play almost anybody. Abraham Answer, 1% owned, Mexico native, led. I think it was Culp's article had him. He was leading the first round, or in the top 5 in the first round, top 5 in the second round last year. Mexican American dual citizenship guy. I mean, like, he could absolutely show up and post a top 20, top 15. It's just like I said, like you said, the talent is not that differentiated here in the 7,000s, and I think you just find some conviction plays and go heavy on those, and then rotate the rest through.
Is it possible that this is like Sang Moon Bay's like coming back party at all, or no?
Listen, he gains a lot of strokes putting on Seashore past Palom. I will say that. So
yeah, and I mean, he was, he played. Fuck, you can't talk me into a guy on putting. I'm trying to make a case here.
Well, listen, we're splitting hairs, trying to pick. I think in these guys, I think, like I said, you can make a case for anybody. If you believe in Sang-Moon Bae, play him. I do think eventually he's going to come back and win. And this, why not? Why not here?
Right. And I mean, like you're saying, he's sort of, I mean, I know he missed the cut last week, but he is trending back towards, playing well again. At the Safeway, he lost 5 strokes. At the CJ Cup, he lost 6 strokes. I think a lot of that was like nerves, being in, your home country and everything else, and a lot of pressure, a lot of media, all that good stuff. So Shriners, he comes out, hits a little bit better off the tee, gains some strokes around the greens, but his putter still isn't there. So, he makes the cut. He can score with people. There's no reason why he wouldn't be able to pop a little bit this week. So I'm good with that. Well, I brought it up, so I guess it kind of showed that I was good with that. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's just all kinds of. I mean, as I go down, I do have some conviction about a couple of guys and right below 7,000.
Let's go. I do too. Let's see if we match up. What do you got?
Well, first of all, if you're not a Fantasy National member, you can't do this. But if you are, you can use the beta test for the simulations. And Brandon Hagee down at 6,900 shows up as one of the best odds to win comparative to the people around him. And I mean, like a year ago, we were paying 8,000 almost for this guy, and people were just clamoring to play him so he could win, and nothing happened. He kind of faded away. And like, this is the kind of event he could show back up at. He's a talented kid that just is adjusting to the tour life, and he's picking up 8.49 strokes across his last 5 events. So I think there's a little something there in terms of his ability to score on a golf course like this. We know that if he makes smart decisions, he can take this golf course apart. It's just a matter of, does he know how to keep the driver in the bag, dial it back, and play the course strategically. So I think that there's a reason to sprinkle him in or take a long flyer, because I think he's you're getting great odds on him if you believe that he'll win in a low tier event like this. The other guy is Rory Sabatini. He shows up pretty well for me in a couple of things that I've looked at. He's played decent here in the past, and he just screwed everybody. So I think I think that this makes like if you're playing like 10, 20 lineups, stick him in one, and you could do very well for yourself if he shows up and plays as well as we all know that he can in his resurgent form. For the record, I think he's a douche, and I don't like him.
Oh yeah, he's just such a jackass. But yeah, I can agree with that. Hagee was the guy who I wanted to talk about for sure. I think that makes just so much sense. I was looking literally the same exact thing that I was going to say you just said about him. So that works for me. These are just like complete dart throws, but guys who have like in the last 3 or 4 years done well here that are just kind of names that will not garner any ownership really. Carlos Ortiz had a top 10 here a couple of years ago. Fathauer, I think some people I saw talking about him on Twitter today, but I mean, he's 4th place 2 years ago. Like, why not? It could happen. Like, there's definitely worse plays at 6,800 this week. And then Oscar Fraustro, T13 and T9 in the last 3 years here. Why not?
Is that guy actually in the field? Who the hell is that?
Yeah, exactly. But he's 13th and 9th in the last 3 years. He has a 13th place finish and a 9th.
Yeah, he has picked up 9.75 strokes on the field the last 2 times he's played this event. That's insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. Yeah, play that guy.
Total dart throws. Like, I know we finally talked you into playing cash a few weeks ago. Don't play him in cash, Jimmy. Don't do it.
We'll not be playing cash this week. I only got a couple more guys. I'll like put I'll talk about Sam Saunders. Coastal Course, Florida boy. We saw what he did on his home course up there in Jacksonville. Obviously Arnold's grandson, but he has taken his game to another level. We saw a lot more consistency last year throughout the course of the year. Showed up in places that, kind of surprised me at least, and I'm sure surprised others. I do think that his game is going to be coming around. This is the type of course that I think will remind him of some Florida courses. He'll be at home in the kind of breezy conditions. The past Pelham greens are going to be slow enough where his normally shaky putter, won't hurt him as bad. So I do think he can show up here. I don't think he's going to win, but a top 20 fine. Oscar Frauto, that's interesting. I've never heard of that guy. Legit, never heard of that guy. Watch a lot of golf, study a lot of golf. Never heard of that dude.
Sizzling hot takes. Don't worry. That's what the kids come here for.
Oscar Groucho, you should play Sesame Street down at 6,700.
I'm going to tweet out gifs of fucking Oscar the Grouch all weekend.
Dude, you should, if that guy shows up again and you have him, you should definitely tweet that out. I do like Steven Yeager. Obviously, the guy can score. One of the courses that he crushed on and shot his 58 was a coastal course, so he can play in the wind. I do actually really like Blaine Barber. I think if I'm playing anybody down here, it's Blaine Barber, and I'll probably have a decent clip of him. He rates out really well for almost everything I'm looking at. Doesn't really have great history here. Doesn't really have great form, but I will have some of Blaine Barber if I'm anywhere down in this range.
See,
also,
now
don't leave my boy Joel Dahman out in the cold. I like him. I think he can do okay here if he has to.
Yeah. Now people are just going to think that I posted my article before. I swear to God, I had Haggy and Barber on there already. This is just inception right now. Don't think that I'm just biting off of Jimmy right now. So.
No, I bet him. I think that, like a tiny bet, but I mean, I think that the guy's a great follow on Twitter too. By the way, if you don't follow him, you definitely should. Plays a lot of golf. Really appreciates the game. Just a good follow if you're a golfer in general, even if you don't play DFS. But either way, I will end my hot takes with Blaine Barber, and nice. I predict Blaine Barber for a top 20 this week at 6,700. So there's your hot take to close from the couch of my buddy's house.
There we go. I think that's it, man. I think we hit everybody. We got Oscar the Grouch going. We got everything else rolling right now. It's perfect. Everything's aligning. If this turns out to be fucking Gary Woodland week and Oscar Frausto makes the cut, I am going to make so much money this weekend.
The only thing, I just hope Gary Woodland isn't like the bad chalk to be on and chasing after last week. I don't think it is, but I'll be bummed if it is, because it'd be a very Gary Woodland thing to do.
I know it would be unfortunate. I need him to win though, because I'm on record saying he's going to win an event before the Masters, and I think this is one of his last best chances. So
I agree. I think you might make good on that this week. I bet him. I bet him to win this week. So we'll see if I can pull that one out. All
right. Well, thanks again for hopping on with. I was going to say us, but it's just me tonight. No Evan.
Always a pleasure. I enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure that you guys are following along on Twitter with me at Matt Jones TFR. Make sure you're following along with Jimmy at DFS Jimmy. Check out bogeyfreedfs.com. I will be hopefully cranking out the article's already up, and I was thinking about doing some something else a little bit different. So follow along this week for some NFL content as well. And other than that, good luck this week, and we will talk to you guys soon. See you.